Beloved soul, this morning rises gently, not demanding perfection, not asking you to be strong beyond your strength, but inviting you to be honest. Here, in the quiet between your heartbeat and your breath, we come as we are, not polished, not pretending, but present. God, we come with hearts that have known joy, and hearts that have known breaking, hearts that have loved deeply, and hearts that have been wounded in ways no one ever saw. Lord, heal my heart. Heal the places I learned to smile through pain. Heal the memories that still ache when I least expect them. Heal the grief I buried because the world told me to move on too quickly. God, you see what I hide. You hear the prayers I never learned how to speak out loud. You know the tears that fall in silence, and the ones that never make it to my eyes. Touch me there, God. Touch me where the hurt lives. This morning I ask not for revenge, not for answers that may never come, but for release. Release me from bitterness that weighs my spirit down. Release me from shame that tells me I am broken beyond repair. Release me from fear that whispers, I will always feel this way. Remind me, God, that my heart is not weak because it feels. It is brave because it survived. Heal the parts of me that still flinch at love. Heal the places where trust was shattered. Heal the child within me, who learned too early how to be strong. Breathe on me, Lord. Breathe peace into my anxious thoughts. Breathe hope into my weary soul. Breathe light into the rooms of my heart I have kept locked for too long. This morning, I choose softness over hardness. I choose faith over fear. I choose healing over hiding. God, teach my heart how to rest again. Teach it how to beat without dread. Teach it how to open without apology. If there are scars, let them become signs of survival. If there is pain, let it be transformed into wisdom. If there are tears, let them water the soil of something new. I trust you with my healing, Lord. Not because I understand the journey, but because I know your love does not abandon what it has begun. As the morning unfolds, wrap me in your gentleness. Guide my steps with compassion. Let today be lighter than yesterday, and tomorrow stronger than today. God, heal my heart, slowly, deeply, completely, and let me walk forward, not empty, but restored. Amen. Beloved, before the sun finishes stretching across the sky, before the world begins to demand answers, effort, and evidence of strength, there is an invitation waiting quietly for you. It does not ask you to fix yourself. It does not require polished words or borrowed courage. It simply calls you to come as you are, not as you wish you were, not as you present yourself to survive the day, but as you truly are, unarmored, unguarded, breathing. Too often we have learned to arrive everywhere wearing our best face. We smile so the room can remain comfortable. We nod so no one asks us questions we are too tired to answer. We carry our pain with grace because grace has been mistaken for silence. But God does not need our performance. God is not impressed by our ability to endure without complaint. God listens most closely when we stop pretending we are unbroken. There is a sacred courage in honesty. It is not loud. It does not announce itself. It simply tells the truth and trusts that the truth will be held. When you come before God with a heart that admits, I am tired, something holy begins to stir. When you whisper, I am hurting, heaven does not recoil. It leans in, for there is no wound you can name that God has not already seen, and no ache you carry that surprises divine love. We have been taught, in subtle and not so subtle ways, that strength means control. Control your tears. Control your voice. Control your story. But God invites a different kind of strength, the strength it takes to lay your burdens down and stop holding your breath. The strength it takes to say, I do not have it together today, and believe you are still worthy of love. When you come honestly, you bring more than pain. You bring trust. You say without decoration or defense, here is my heart. It is cracked in places. It is heavy with memory. It is unsure of what comes next. And God does not ask you why it broke or how you let it happen. God simply receives it as gently as one would receive something fragile and precious. Honesty before God is not a confession of failure. It is an act of faith. It says, I believe I can be seen and not rejected. It says, I believe my truth is not too much. In a world that often demands silence from suffering, this belief is revolutionary. It restores dignity to pain. It reminds the soul that hiding is not the same as healing. Some of us learned early to make ourselves small. We learned that our sadness was inconvenient, our fear excessive, our needs unreasonable. So we carried them quietly like secret luggage, hoping no one would ask us to open the bag. But God is not inconvenienced by your emotions. God is not overwhelmed by your complexity. The divine does not flinch when you speak the truth of your experience. To come honestly is to stop negotiating your worth. It is to stop thinking you must earn compassion by being strong enough, grateful enough, faithful enough. God's love does not arrive after you have cleaned up your feelings. It meets you in the middle of them, right where you are confused, right where you are exhausted, right where your prayers come out tangled and incomplete. There is freedom in telling God the truth you have been telling yourself in the dark. Freedom in admitting the anger you tried to bury under politeness. Freedom in naming the grief you thought you had outgrown. When you speak these truths aloud, they lose their power to isolate you. They become shared. And what is shared can be healed. Honesty also teaches us how to listen. When we stop rehearsing what we think we should say, we begin to hear what our hearts have been saying all along. The ache we ignored. The fear we postponed. The hope we pretended not to need. God meets us in that listening space where silence becomes sacred and vulnerability becomes a doorway. This kind of honesty does not make you weak. It makes you whole. It gathers the scattered parts of yourself, the brave face, the private sorrow, the unspoken longing, and brings them into one truthful presence. God does not want fragments of you. God wants all of you, the faith-filled and the faith-weary, the confident and the confused, the one who believes and the one who is still learning how. When you come to God honestly, you stop running from your own humanity. You accept that to feel deeply is not a flaw but a gift, that your sensitivity is not a liability but a language, that your tears are not evidence of defeat but proof that your heart is alive. God does not heal what we deny. Healing begins the moment we tell the truth and stay. So come this morning without apology. Come with your questions that have no answers yet. Come with your hope that feels fragile and your faith that feels thin. Come with your joy and your sorrow holding hands. Come exactly as you are. God already knows your name, your story, your struggle, and still you are welcome. There are wounds that do not bleed where the eye can see them. They settle quietly in the chambers of the heart, learning the language of silence, learning how to wait. They show up in the way you hesitate before trusting, in the way your breath tightens when memory walks into the room unannounced. These are the places we bring to God when we ask for emotional healing, not as a performance of faith, but as an act of survival wrapped in hope. To ask for healing is to admit that something still hurts. It is to acknowledge that time alone has not done all the work we were promised it would do. We may have learned how to function, how to move forward, how to smile at the right moments, but beneath that practiced strength lives a tenderness that has not yet been touched with gentleness. God, heal my heart, we pray, not because we are weak, but because we are brave enough to want to be whole. Some pain is loud. It announces itself with tears and sleepless nights. Other pain is quiet. It settles into habits, into caution, into lowered expectations. It teaches the heart how to brace itself before joy arrives. Emotional wounds often carry the names of people we once trusted, dreams we once believed in, seasons that took more than they gave. These wounds do not disappear just because we keep going. They ask to be seen. They ask to be held. When we ask God for emotional healing, we are not asking for erasure. We are asking for transformation. We are asking that what once wounded us will no longer define us. We are asking that the memory loses its sharp edge, that the ache softens into understanding, that the heart learns a new rhythm, one not dictated by fear. Grief, in particular, teaches the heart a language no one ever volunteers to learn. It arrives when something precious is taken or something sacred ends. It lingers long after condolences fade. To ask God to heal grief is not to rush mourning or deny love. It is to ask that sorrow no longer feels like a sentence. It is to ask for permission to breathe again without guilt. There is also the healing of broken trust. Trust, once fractured, does not return on command. It rebuilds slowly, brick by brick, through patience and grace. When trust is broken, the heart becomes a guarded place. Doors close, windows narrow. To ask God to heal this wound is to ask for courage, not reckless openness, but wise softness. It is to ask that suspicion does not become our permanent shelter. Fear often grows in the soil of emotional pain. Fear of being abandoned again. Fear of loving too much. Fear of hoping and being disappointed. These fears shape our choices quietly, persuading us to settle for less than we deserve. When we ask God for healing, we ask for release from fear's tight grip. We ask for a love that steadies rather than startles us. Shame, too, leaves deep marks on the heart. Shame tells us that what happened was our fault, that what we feel is excessive, that who we are is somehow lacking. Shame thrives in secrecy. Healing begins when shame is named and answered with truth. God does not speak shame's language. God speaks dignity. God calls you beloved even when you feel unworthy of the name. Emotional healing is not instant. It is not a switch flipped or a prayer that fixes everything overnight. It is a process, holy and human. Some days you will feel lighter, as if a burden has been lifted. Other days the weight will return, reminding you that healing is not linear. God is not discouraged by this rhythm. God walks with you through it. When you ask God to heal your heart, you invite divine tenderness into places you may have avoided for years. Places you learned to survive without touching. God enters gently. There is no forcing, no shaming, no impatience. Healing moves at the speed of trust, and trust, once wounded, needs time to believe again. Asking for emotional healing also means allowing yourself to feel not just the pain, but the joy that follows it. Sometimes we guard ourselves so carefully that we block both sorrow and delight. God's healing restores our capacity to feel fully, to laugh without fear, to love without armor, to hope without constantly preparing for loss. Your heart was not created to be a storage place for unprocessed pain. It was created to beat with purpose, to expand with compassion, to hold love in generous measure. When God heals your heart, you are not becoming someone new. You are becoming yourself again, the self that existed before the wound and the self that grew wiser because of it. So when you whisper, "God, heal my heart," know that the prayer is heard, not as a request to hurry your healing, but as an invitation for presence. God sits with you in the remembering. God stays with you in the unlearning. God celebrates with you in the moments you realize the pain no longer has the final word. Healing does not mean you forget. It means you are no longer bound. It means the story can be told without breaking you open again. It means your heart learns that safety is possible, that love can be steady, that peace can feel familiar. There comes a moment in every healing journey when the heart realizes it has been carrying more than it was ever meant to hold. Not just memories, but meaning. Not just experiences, but judgments. We pick up burdens quietly over time, bitterness folded into our thoughts, shame stitched into our self-image, anxiety wrapped around our hopes. We carry them because no one told us we could set them down, and so we keep walking, stooped in ways that do not always show. Letting go is not a sudden act of forgetting. It is a decision repeated, often daily, to loosen the grip on what has weighed the soul down. When we speak of release, we are not denying what happened. We are refusing to allow it to keep ruling our inner life. God does not ask us to pretend the wound was painless. God invites us to stop letting the wound dictate our future. Bitterness often begins as self-protection. It grows when pain goes unanswered, when apologies never come, when justice feels delayed or denied. At first, bitterness feels like strength. It sharpens our edges. It tells us we will never be fooled again, but over time, bitterness becomes a prison we built with our own hands. It keeps us alert, but not at peace. God's invitation to release bitterness is an invitation back to freedom. Releasing bitterness does not excuse harm. It does not rewrite history or erase accountability. It simply means we are tired of carrying someone else's wrongdoing inside our own chest. It means we choose our own healing over our right to remain angry. God understands the anger. God does not rush it. But God also knows that bitterness, if left unchecked, will ask for more than it ever gives back. Shame is another burden we carry too faithfully. Shame tells us we should have known better, done better, been better. It rewrites our story in a cruel voice, turning moments of vulnerability into lifelong accusations. Shame convinces us that our mistakes are our identity. When we ask God to help us release shame, we are asking to remember who we were before shame learned our name. God does not see you through the lens of your worst moment. God does not measure your worth by your most painful chapter. Shame collapses when exposed to grace. It loses its authority when truth enters the room. And the truth is this: you are more than what happened to you and more than what you regret. Anxiety is the burden that lives in the future. It rehearses what might go wrong and convinces the heart to stay on guard. Anxiety promises safety through control but delivers exhaustion instead. It keeps the body alert long after the danger has passed. Releasing anxiety is not about ignoring reality. It is about trusting that you do not have to manage every possible outcome alone. When we release anxiety to God, we are not saying nothing matters. We are saying, I cannot carry everything. We are choosing trust over tension, presence over prediction. God meets us in that choice not by removing all uncertainty, but by giving us enough peace to face the day in front of us. Letting go also means releasing the stories we tell ourselves that no longer serve us. Stories like, I will always be broken, I am too much, I am not enough. These narratives settle into the heart and begin to feel like truth. But they are burdens too, heavy with lies that limit our becoming. God's truth speaks more gently, but it speaks with authority. It says you are becoming, not failing, healing, not stuck, held, not abandoned. Release is rarely dramatic. It often happens in quiet moments, when you choose not to revisit an old hurt one more time, when you speak to yourself with kindness instead of criticism, when you pause and breathe instead of bracing for impact. These small acts of letting go accumulate. They change the shape of the heart. There will be days when what you thought you released comes knocking again. Old feelings resurface, familiar heaviness returns. This does not mean you failed. It means you are human. Release is not a straight line. It is a spiral, returning to the same place with a little more wisdom each time. God is patient with this process. God does not keep score. To release is to trust that God can hold what you no longer need to carry. It is to believe that your hands were made for receiving, not just gripping. When you open your hands even slightly, you create space for peace to enter, for joy to find you, for love to rest. God does not demand release as a condition for love. God offers release as a gift of love. An invitation to lay down what has been heavy for too long. An invitation to rest without guilt. An invitation to live with a lighter spirit. And when you finally feel the weight shift, when your chest loosens, when your thoughts soften, when your heart no longer races at the memory, you will realize that letting go was not losing something. It was finding yourself again. Restoration rarely arrives with noise. It does not announce itself with thunder or spectacle. It comes quietly, like dawn slipping through a curtain, gentle enough that you might miss it if you are not paying attention. God's way of healing is not hurried. It is tender, deliberate, and deeply personal. It honors the pace of the wounded heart, never forcing it to open before it is ready. When we speak of restoration, we are not speaking of returning to who we were before the pain. We are speaking of becoming who we are meant to be because we survived it. God does not erase the story, God redeems it. The chapters that once felt unbearable become places of wisdom. The scars that once felt shameful become evidence of endurance. This is not a miracle that rushes in and leaves. It is a presence that stays. God's gentleness is not weakness, it is strength refined by compassion. It knows when to hold and when to release, when to comfort and when to challenge. Restoration under God's care does not overwhelm the heart, it reassures it. Step by step, the soul is reminded that safety is possible again. There are days in this process when healing feels invisible. You pray, you wait, and nothing seems to change. But beneath the surface, something is shifting. Old patterns loosen. Old fears lose their grip. Like roots growing underground, restoration often happens where no one can see it. God works deeply before God works visibly. God restores by meeting us where we are, not where we think we should be. There is no expectation to be strong on demand, no pressure to rush through grief, no shame for needing time. Divine restoration respects the history of the heart. It remembers every tear, every moment of courage, every time you chose to keep going even when you wanted to stop. In God's restoration, pain is not dismissed, it is transformed. What once threatened to break you becomes a source of empathy. You find yourself understanding others more deeply, listening more carefully, loving more intentionally. Your heart expands, not because it was never wounded, but because it learned how to heal. Restoration also teaches the soul how to rest. Not collapse, but rest. The kind of rest that trusts the moment. The kind of rest that does not feel like escape, but like home. God restores by reminding us that we do not have to be vigilant all the time. That peace is not laziness. That stillness is sacred. There is a softness that returns to the heart during restoration, a willingness to hope again, a curiosity about joy. At first it may feel unfamiliar, even risky, but God does not rush this openness. Like a careful gardener, God tends the soil, making sure it is safe for new life to grow. God's restoration is thorough. It does not only touch what hurts most, it also addresses what has been neglected, dreams deferred, confidence eroded, faith worn thin. God rebuilds patiently, brick by brick, restoring not just what was broken, but what was lost along the way. In this process, the soul learns a new language, one spoken in trust instead of fear, in grace instead of self-judgment. You begin to speak more kindly to yourself. You begin to believe that you deserve good things. This is restoration too, the quiet rewriting of the inner narrative. There may be moments when you look back and realize that the pain did not destroy you. It shaped you. It carved depth into your character and clarity into your values. God does not glorify suffering, but God does not waste it either. Every tear becomes part of the testimony. Restoration also reconnects you to joy. Not the reckless kind that ignores reality, but the grounded joy that knows sorrow and chooses life anyway. You learn to laugh without guilt, to celebrate small victories, to feel gratitude without forcing it. Joy returns not as a stranger, but as a companion. God's restoration is not about perfection. It is about wholeness. The restored heart still remembers, still feels, still carries history, but it no longer lives under the shadow of it. The past becomes a reference, not a residence. And perhaps the most beautiful part of divine restoration is this: God never rushes ahead of you. God walks with you, matching your pace, holding your hand when the path feels uncertain, waiting when you need to stop. One day you will notice that your heart beats differently. Not louder, not faster, but freer. You will realize that what once defined you no longer controls you, that you have been restored not to who you were, but to who you are becoming. Morning arrives not as a demand, but as a gift. It opens its hands to us whether we are ready or not, whether our faith feels strong or fragile. Each new day carries a quiet invitation to choose again, to choose how we will stand in the world, how we will speak to ourselves, how we will meet whatever waits beyond the threshold. Renewal is not something that happens once and stays forever. It is a decision we make, breath by breath, morning by morning. Hope is often misunderstood as a feeling that arrives fully formed, but hope, in its truest shape, is an action. It is the choice to rise when remaining down would be easier. It is the willingness to believe that today can hold something gentler than yesterday. When we choose hope in the morning, we are not denying what has been painful. We are refusing to let pain have the final word. Each morning, the soul wakes carrying the memory of what it has endured. The body remembers too. Some mornings feel light, filled with possibility. Others feel heavy before the first step is taken. Faith does not require that every morning feel good. Faith asks only that we show up, that we whisper yes to the day, even when our voice trembles. Choosing renewal means deciding not to live entirely from yesterday's wounds. It means allowing the past to inform us without imprisoning us. Every morning offers a small mercy, the chance to loosen our grip on what has already happened and place our trust, however tentatively, in what is unfolding now. There is courage in beginning again. Courage in opening your eyes and saying, I am still here. Courage in believing that your presence in this day matters. God meets us in that courage, not with expectations, but with companionship. You are not asked to carry the day alone. Divine strength does not remove your humanity, it walks beside it. Morning renewal also invites softness, a gentleness toward yourself that may have been missing for a long time. Instead of waking with accusation, why am I still struggling? Why am I not further along? You choose compassion. You remind yourself that healing is not a race, and becoming is not a competition. God's mercy greets you before your doubts do. Each morning is an opportunity to realign your heart, to set your intention not toward fear, but toward trust. Not toward self-criticism, but toward grace. This alignment does not guarantee a perfect day. It prepares you for an honest one. And honesty, when paired with faith, is powerful. Renewal also means reclaiming agency. Even when circumstances are beyond your control, your response is not. You can choose to breathe deeply instead of bracing. You can choose to speak kindly instead of sharply. You can choose to notice beauty even in small and unexpected places. These choices shape the spirit more than we realize. There will be mornings when hope feels distant, when faith feels thin, when the promise of renewal feels like a language you no longer speak fluently. On those mornings, choosing renewal may look simple and quiet. It may be as small as getting out of bed, as gentle as offering yourself patience, as honest as saying, God, help me make it through this day. These prayers are not small, they are sacred. As days gather into weeks, and weeks into seasons, the practice of choosing hope begins to leave its mark. You notice that you recover more quickly from disappointment. That joy, when it comes, stays a little longer. That fear does not govern your decisions as completely as it once did. This is renewal at work, not dramatic but enduring. God's guidance in the morning is not a map for the entire journey, it is light for the next step. You are given what you need when you need it. Enough strength for today, enough wisdom for the moment, enough grace for yourself and others. Tomorrow will bring its own mercies. Choosing renewal each morning also reconnects you to purpose. You remember that your life is more than your pain, that your story is still unfolding, that there are words only you can speak, kindness only you can offer, love only you can give. The world needs the healed version of you, not the perfect one, but the present one. As you rise into each new day, you carry with you the quiet assurance that you are not starting from nothing. You are starting from love, from a God who believes in your becoming, from a strength that grows each time you choose faith over fear. And so, morning by morning you rise, not because everything is easy, but because hope has taught you how to stand. Not because the past is forgotten, but because the future is calling, and you answer not loudly, not perfectly, but faithfully.